What's up YouTube, and welcome back to Homebrew Subaru. In this episode I'm going to do a full complete front brake replacement on my Subaru Forester. So what's up everyone? Yes, I will be doing a full complete front brake replacement. I've got everything to get it done. So I did get some new rotors. I went ahead and sprayed those almost 2 weeks ago now. Some new ceramic pads, the Power Stop Evolution ceramic. I've heard good things about these for the price that they are. And some new calipers that I have sprayed black as well to try and prevent some corrosion. And new hardware, new caliper bracket bolts to replace the ones that are on there because they're always rotted. And I've also got the stainless braided lines to put on as well. So everything going on, it's not a very special video, it's just a front brake job, and most people probably watching have done some disc brakes before. I also have earlier videos of me doing brake jobs that I will try and post the links at the end of the video. But getting to this thing is kind of more or less just a before and after, taking the calipers off and seeing that the pistons are seized. Everything's heavily corroded, and getting all new parts on there is going to give me some extra confidence going down the highway if I need to stop. So gonna jack up the front of the vehicle, get the left front wheel off. We're just going to do the one side on video and get some new parts put on. So wheel is off, sitting on a jack stand. Obviously a lot of rust buildup. These brakes I replaced when I first bought this thing. The rotors aren't too bad a shape. These were premium rotors. You can still see there's a bit of paint on them, but they do have a ridge in here and there's definitely some pitting. So I'm glad that I bought rotors for replacement. I'm quite confident this caliper is seized on. I did have to free it up when I first bought this thing, and I did not replace the caliper. I just did like pads and rotors. So gonna take things apart, try and clean up everything, and then go back together with the new parts. We'll start with taking the caliper off. We don't have to worry too much about the hose because we're replacing it. You can see how rusted up those cups are. So I'm just going to sit this off to the side, and we'll work on getting the bracket bolts out next. So I know when I did these last time, when I put this back together, I would have put the better caliper bolt into the top because it's a lot more difficult to access with the strut bolts in the way. And the worst bolt I put on the bottom, and it's starting to slip, so I'm actually going to have to go down from a 17mm to a 16mm, try and hammer it on and get it to break free. And that worked. We got the bracket off. Just leave the pads in it. It's all scrap metal. The rotor's actually loose. Probably applied anti-seize, but it's just a residue of it now. So yeah, there's a huge cleanup here. I'm gonna try and do up the backing plate and clean all this loose stuff off the strut. Gonna leave the caliper on for now. I need to get this bolt out that's holding the flex hose because I'm gonna have to reuse it and at least clean it up a little bit. Clean up around where it attaches to the actual brake line. Put some penetrating fluid in there, and I'll come back when I've kind of got that all done. And here we are, relatively cleaned up. It's taken me a lot of time to chip off all the rust. The steering knuckle's so heavily corroded that, I mean, the paint isn't going to last very long and the rust is just going to continue to spread. If I really want to get into this thing a couple years down the road, I mean, it's going to need subframes, it's going to need knuckles with new bearings, and that's all stuff I can think about in the future. But whether I think the thing's worth it or not, which it probably won't be, but you never know. So I'm literally ready to start going back together, and we will start with a little bit of anti-seize on the hub here. Next is the brake rotor. Now this has basically 2 coats of protection on it, so it came with coating on it, and then I've sprayed it black, so hopefully it resists the rust better than what it usually does. Next is the caliper bracket, new hardware. I'll just go ahead and tighten these right up. Next I'll put the pad shims in, and I've already got them pre-lubricated with some brake lubricant, and start the outer pad. Should just fall right in there. And this inner pad has the low pad indicator on it, which kind of drags on the rotor and squeals really loudly when you're low brake pads. That is not something I need. It also makes it a little difficult to get the pad into place, so it is coming off. It is not a spacer. Just a good twist, it'll pop right off. You'll find even without it, the pad is a really nice tight fit. Next up is the caliper. I have already installed the braided line with the banjo bolt, new washers. I was trying to get this on. It was being very resistant, and I literally had to take this outer shim off of the pad just to get me enough to get it on. I mean, I tried to push back the pistons. I don't imagine there's a problem with it. It's just possibly the pads are a little bit thick, or who knows. But it should go on now. A little bit more of a fight than I normally like, but it's pretty much in place and it still has lots of movement. I'll just put the caliper bolts in. And 14 mil to tighten these guys up. And that's all together. So now it's just basically to let the old flex line off, which is still hanging with the caliper down here, and attach the new line. So everything's all together. I've got it all bled. Got the line all fastened with some zip ties there at the back. The bolts fastened there. It's all tight. And I will give you another look when I've got it back down on the ground with the wheel on. And there it is, back down on the ground with some brand new wheel nuts. And I didn't put the wheel spacer on. I think this is going to be proper spacing the way it is. So now with the brakes all done on the Forester, all the mechanical work is pretty much finished. Still needs a windshield, which I'll have to send it out for that. And I want to pull the headliner out and clean it up, but I'm probably going to do that off camera. So for right now, the Forester's kind of done until I get some insurance put on it, and then I will eventually go for an auto vlog and get a good test of the brakes. Maybe go for a short little trip kind of thing with it. Anyway, we're going to have to switch off some Subaru stuff for a little bit because I've got another car I've got to do some jobs on. But we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. And then I plan on bringing the Impreza back in to start putting the turbo engine in, at least so the engine's in the car. It might not be turbocharged right away, but it'll be in the car and I'll be able to drive it in and out. So if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here and you haven't already, please consider hitting that subscribe button for me. Leave your questions and comments further down below, and I'll see you in the next one.